Good evening, Dodger fans, and thank you guys for listening and watching another episode of the Incline Dodgers podcast. We are presented by TickPick Fansided and Underdog Fantasy. Your Los Angeles Dodgers are alive to see the NLCS, the first time they're going back to the NLCS since 2021. I can't believe I'm saying that, but they got over the hump of the NLDS demons. They take down the San Diego Padres, and they storm back from a 2-1 series deficit with a statement behind Yoshinobu Yamamoto tonight. Of course, we'll talk about him. Thank you guys for watching. Hit that like button while you check in. Everyone, let us know how you're feeling about your Los Angeles Dodgers advancing to the NLCS. Next game is Sunday against the Mets. Here we go. What's up, Jake Reiner? How are we feeling tonight?
God, that was an uncomfortable 9 innings, Kevin. I mean, Jesus Christ. I was, even Dave Roberts said he was the most stressed he's ever been. This was agony for 9 innings watching that game. But what a series win. I was just telling you before we went on about just the sharp turn that this series took. The Dodgers down 2-1, looking like carbon copies of the last 2 postseasons where they just wilted and died or imploded. And this Dodgers team fought. It was a street fight. It was a scratch and claw street fight. And the Dodgers pitching staff basically saw that 2-1 series deficit and then just didn't allow another run. It felt like there was no traffic on the bases the past 2 games. The last 24 innings of shutout baseball. The bullpen tonight was perfect. They did not allow one single base runner tonight. Just an immaculate job. I have to eat my words. We're going to talk about Yamamoto, and I promise you I will eat my words on that because I did not like that move, and it paid off. It was a huge gamble, and it completely paid off. And then the guys that have performed in postseasons past and also are making a legend for themselves in the postseason this year showed up in both Hernandez's, Teoscar and Kiké coming through with huge, huge blasts. Can't say enough about those guys, but want to get into Kiké as well. Just a very, very exciting series win. I haven't felt like this since 2021 or 2020, Kevin.
Yeah. Finally, we take down those filthy Padres. After they beat the Atlanta Braves, they immediately started chanting "Beat LA" rent-free as they usually do, and they took the first game that they got to host in Petco Park. But we took care of business in Game 4. We set it up for a Game 5 back home in Dodger Stadium. And yes, it initially was kind of an enigma. Why would the Dodgers go to Yoshinobu Yamamoto? The Padres have owned him. He was bad in the first game. He gave up 5 runs across 3 innings. He got pummeled in Korea. He only went 1 inning and I think gave up 5 runs. And then was kind of mediocre the other time. Tatis had taken him deep. I think Machado had taken him deep before. But tonight was the best version that I think we've ever seen of Yoshinobu Yamamoto. It is right up there with that Yankee Stadium performance that he did right before he got sent to the injured list. But he was dialed in tonight, and credit to the Los Angeles Dodgers for believing in this guy. They had committed $375 million in total when you include the posting fee in this guy who had never pitched at the big league level up until 2024. And he looked like the veteran superstar that we got out of Japan. He was sensational tonight, and he kept the Padres off balance, hitting 98 often on the radar gun, had confidence in the curveball and the slider. He lived up to the hype. He was just amazing. The best Dodgers start I've seen probably since Tyler Anderson against the Padres 2 years ago.
If you'd have told me before tonight that Yamamoto was going to pitch 5 shutout innings against the Padres, I would have said, you're out of your mind. What are you talking about? And that's what I thought when the Dodgers said that Yoshinobu Yamamoto was going to start this game. I immediately was like, no, he should be nowhere near this game. I even tweeted it out that he should have been nowhere near this game, given what Kevin just mentioned. I mean, the Padres owned him in the regular season. Over 1,000 OPS, this Padres team, when facing Yoshinobu Yamamoto. He pitched tremendously in Game 1. The fact that they gambled this guy, I was like, they better be right, because if they're not, they're going to have to hear it from everybody, given all of the evidence against starting the guy. They end up starting him, and he rises to the occasion like an absolute G. I mean, I couldn't have been more over the moon with the job that he did tonight. And Dave Roberts said in the postgame, he said the reason they went to Yamamoto is because he's used to pitching in big games when the fate of the world is on his shoulders. He's done it in Japan. He did it in the World Baseball Classic. These are the moments he's built for. And yeah, the Dodgers are paying him $375 million. Of course, you're going to go back to that guy if he's fully healthy in a closeout game. That's what you're paying them to do. And that's what the Dodgers basically said to him. Yoshi, we're paying you a shit ton of money. Get the job done. He rose to the occasion. And I have to say, Shohei Ohtani was right, because Shohei was the one clamoring for Yamamoto to get to start. And he trusted in his countrymate, and his countrymate came through for him.
That's a really good point. I'm glad you brought that up. I love that Shohei Ohtani, who wants to win a World Series more than anyone, even had the faith in Yoshinobu Yamamoto when it's the first time they're officially MLB teammates. He told Dave he had his back. Yamamoto himself wanted the ball. He wanted revenge, and he came through. His stat line was out of this world. I could not have imagined he'd go 5 scoreless innings, just 2 hits, a walk, and 2 strikeouts. He threw 63 pitches to get 15 outs. The definition of efficiency there. Luis Arias had a hit. Tatis went 0 for 4. Profar was irrelevant. He went 0 for 3. Manny Machado 0 for 3. Jackson Merrill 0 for 3. Everybody pretty much 0 for. The only 2 hits tonight in the game came from Arias and Higashioka.
I honestly don't know how they were able to do it, but as soon as they went to the bullpen game, and you made the point, Kevin, you said, going to a bullpen game is kind of disappointing when you consider how much money they spent on the starting rotation in the offseason. But with the way that the starting pitching was going, you thought, it couldn't be any worse with these guys. And they were immaculate. It just, and I want to talk about the job that the guys did tonight too, because game 4 was amazing, obviously a shutout bullpen game. But tonight, the stars showed up. Evan Phillips, first of all, first guy out of the pen, he was amazing. He was able to go 1 2/3 innings with 3 strikeouts. Then Vesia comes in, pitches a third of an inning, gets the strikeout of Jackson Merrill. Then he was going to come out for the 8th inning, but felt something there in his back, I believe. Don't really know what's going on with him. That sucks. But isn't it just crazy when someone like Alex Vesia goes down and you're able to say like, oh, don't worry, we got Michael Kopech waiting in the wings. And they brought him in and he shoved it up their ass. And then he left and Treinen came in and shut the door. That's another one I have to eat my words on. Michael Kopech, I apologize, my friend. I did not know your game. I was unfamiliar with your game, as they say. And he proved everybody wrong. What a deadline acquisition he's been. Just fortified this bullpen. I mean, look, both bullpens in this series were awesome. Really the only runs that were scored were off the starting pitchers. If you exclude, kind of the garbage time relief innings that, Michael Grove pitched and others. It was really the starting pitching is the one that gave up all the runs. The bullpens for both teams were unbelievable. Just the Dodgers was that much better. And the Dodgers were able to come back in this series. It's just amazing.
Yeah, shout out to Evan Phillips. I don't think he allowed a single hit in the series. He was just out of this world. And he was
vintage Evan Phillips.
That sweeper that he threw to get Manny Machado to swing and miss was filthy. And I'm so glad that they were able to get him back into his best role, which is a fireman, high leverage, middle relief guy. And it paid dividends. Those 5 outs were massive. Who would have thought Blake Treinen would record 2 saves in this series? I have to eat my words on Blake Treinen because I thought he was washed. But he was absolute nails in the entire series. And then Michael Kopech, I was a Michael Kopech truther. He threw the most filthiest, high gas, ice cold, I think as you said, fastball to get the swing and the miss, 102 miles per hour. It was the most electric 102 mile per hour fastball I've ever seen a Dodgers pitcher throw.
Oh, yeah. No, and that's a thing too, is that what happened, the shift in this series was basically the Dodgers said, okay, enough of this shit. We're not playing your game. We're going to play our game. We're going to make you react to what we're doing. So we're going to throw all of these relievers at you and see if you guys can handle it. Oh, really? You can't handle it? Well, great. We're going to stick with that model. And not only that, we're going to go back to our, quote unquote ace, and he's going to show up for us. The Dodgers did what they wanted to do. They didn't do anything that the Padres dictated. It wasn't like during the regular season when Miguel Rojas hit into that triple play, the Dodgers take the bunt off there because they saw the defense shifting in a certain way, and they thought that it was going to result in the lead runner getting out. That's playing scared baseball. This is playing baseball where you're imposing your will, and the Dodgers did that. And that's why I think they were able to win these last 2 games.
Look who just dropped in. Friend of the incline, Dusty Baker, here to celebrate a Dodgers NLCS clinching appearance. They took down the Padres. What's up, Dusty?
Hey, guys. This was an unbelievable, emotional day. I think heading into this, a lot of us, probably a little more optimism just because of what they were able to do in Game 4. I'll be honest with you, I was a Debbie Downer heading into Game 4. I was ready for the funeral. And so to look at where we're at now, I mean, what a 180 it's been. And I was just out shooting high school football, and there was no way I was going to miss this game. So I attached a phone to my video camera I was shooting with. And so every 2 seconds I'd be popping up and down.
Nice.
And, there's no way you miss these games, man, because these are special. And I think one thing that really has hit me, and maybe it took me a second, being in this part of the country, a lot of people not used to making the playoffs because of we're in Reds country out here. But I looked at the little lower third that said Dodgers hadn't been to the LCS since 2021, and it really has been like a long 3 years, right? Just a long 3 years of constantly, you win the division, you get excited about it, and then it's just a crash and burn. And for the first time in 3 years, we haven't done that. They were able to come through and do it at home as well, was something so special, because that to me was something that the fans needed. Dodgers fans have waited a long time for this. And the reality is, 2020, you win the World Series in front of 10,000 fans. The Dodgers fans have not had a chance to celebrate this team truly since 2018, right? That's really how it feels. And so this is special.
Jeremy Bird, thank you so much for dropping the blue hearts and super chat. Jeremy, diehard Dodger fan, thank you for tuning in. Feel free to ask us anything that's on your mind, Jeremy. Appreciate the super chat. Love all you Dodger fans. It's a great night to be a Los Angeles Dodgers fan. The little brothers, the San Diego Padres, got to pack their bags because they're going to Cancun. I think Fernando Tatis and Manny Machado are ready. They looked like they were ready to board that plane halfway through this game. The entire Padres team was just dead silent after they were so cocky the last time they played in our house. Tonight, the dugout was dead. They looked like the lifeless ones. No passion I saw, no leadership. They just had no answer for us tonight. And the Dodgers pitching did their part. I want to give some credit to Dave Roberts. I'm always hard on him, and I have to give him the recognition he deserves when he shines. He really was flawless in this series. He really, unless you're being super nitpicky, he didn't make a single mistake in the entire NLDS. And I think I said it before, he had to get to the NLCS to save his job. And barring just some crazy mind-boggling decisions, I think Dave Roberts has done everything in his power to preserve his job and be the Dodgers manager heading into the 2025 season, because he was just excellent.
He was. And honestly, I think that when your team wins a series that you think they're not going to win, and you're talking about, doom and gloom after they lost Game 3, and you're facing elimination, and you're thinking about what's going to happen next year. Are they going to get rid of Dave Roberts? What do they do about this roster? And you start to think about all the doom and gloom that's going to come as a result of them getting eliminated. And then Dave Roberts turns around and, honestly, I had said after Game 3, I had said, it's not because of anything that Dave Roberts has done in this specific series, but if you lose another first round to a divisional opponent, it's kind of time to look in the mirror here and see if maybe there needs to be a change. But he did manage flawlessly. He pulled all the right levers. And, who'd have thought? I mean, we all criticize Dave Roberts for believing in his guys and being a player's manager. Well, he really did believe in Yoshinobu Yamamoto, and he came through. I against all of the thoughts and feelings that I had about that. It was kind of remarkable what happened tonight.
Yeah, I have to say a personal apology to Dave Roberts because I questioned him as much as anybody else out there. And I mean, I posted a poll. It's crazy to think about this. 72 hours ago, I posted a poll saying if the Dodgers lose in 4, what is the percentage he gets fired? If they lose in 5, what's that percentage? And if they don't lose at all, what's that look like? And from that poll, I gauged that 75% of the Dodgers fans, out of I think I had like 3,000 people vote on it, 75% wanted him out, regardless of whether it was a loss in Game 4 or Game 5. The fact is, he managed brilliantly. That bullpen locked down. It was unbelievable. 24 scoreless innings as well. And then you see Yoshi. I mean, that was a debatable start today. You're talking about, do you start Yoshi? Do you start Flaherty? Roberts goes with his guts, and he goes with the guy that goes and shoves, right? That was huge. And so tip the cap to Roberts, man. Everything he did this series as a whole, really from start to finish, was the right answer, right? Now, it doesn't mean that everything resulted in a win, but he made every correct move. And so for that, I mean, you just got to sit back and say, okay, we've been really hard on him, and I think rightfully so. But man, what a way he was able to accomplish and get through this series. And it was gritty. I mean, it was really gritty. And you knew that today wasn't going to be easy, and it wasn't. But Dave came out and had a game plan, and it helps when Yoshi does what he does. But man, what a series, and more importantly, what a well-managed series it was for Dave.
All right, so I want to get to some of your guys' questions, like Roy Estrada. You can drop them in the chat. Hit that like button for us if you haven't yet. Let's get all the likes in there. It'll only make the chat more fun. So Roy asking, does Chris Taylor get left off the next series roster and replaced with Kevin Kiermaier? I think there's a couple of questions we have to first ask. And one is, what's the status of Miguel Rojas? If Miguel Rojas can't play, then no, you're going to keep Chris Taylor on the roster, and maybe you take Rojas off and replace him with Kiermaier. But nonetheless, I think Chris Taylor, even though he was just terrible in his most recent start, all he did was swing and miss and strike out. I'm not entirely sure the Dodgers are going to leave him off just yet in favor of Kiermaier, because I do know the Mets have a couple lefties that they're going to throw at us with Minaya and Quintana, not necessarily meaning Taylor will start. But if one of them were to come out of the bullpen in some live or die situation, maybe they have to feel like Taylor needs to be on the roster just in case injury, desperation.
They do use that guy Peterson out of the pen, so he's a lefty, so that could factor in. But also, I think it's a wash between Chris Taylor and Kevin Kiermaier. I think Chris Taylor can play the outfield, and he can also play the infield too, which is the advantage Kevin was talking about. And also the speed factor too. I mean, both the guys are fast. So you saw CT3 pinch run for Freddie Freeman. I mean, Kevin Kiermaier can do that as well. So it's kind of a wash because it's not like you're adding a great bat in Kevin Kiermaier. You're adding him for speed and defense, and Chris Taylor does that for you.
Yeah, I mean, you look at defensively, that's really the argument you're going to make. And the versatility of Taylor is going to be even more valuable if Rojas can't play, right? Like that's just the reality of it. So I don't think people should be shocked if that is the move that's made. But Kiermaier does play unbelievable defense, and having him late in the game playing, center field, throwing him out and left, even if you need to, or whatever it may be, that wouldn't hurt.
On second thought, if they're thinking about throwing Pages out there in center field like they did tonight, they tried to sneak that one by us, but we didn't. We noticed it. I don't want that. I want a guy that can play center field to play center field. I want Kiermaier in that spot if that's what they're going to do.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was looking at that too. I just think that you need a guy that can lock it down, and the reality is Kiermaier is as good as it gets in that position, right? And defense does win games for you during this time of year, so that is something to think about. But I think, as Kevin kind of mentioned at the start here, you really need to figure out what's the deal with Rojas initially. I think that's step one. And where's your depth in the infield?
Here's the thing. If you keep Rojas, I'd keep him on the bench if you're going to keep him on the roster. I don't think that he needs to be in there. Edman is a fine shortstop, and
Yeah.
I want Kiké Hernandez in the lineup every day.
Yeah, we're gonna get to the Hernandez boys, and I agree with Jake. And on top of that as well, not to be the bearer of bad news, but I wouldn't be shocked if we get some Andy Pajes starts in center field with these lefties on deck to start. So we might have to brace ourselves for that. But Gavin DeLuhosh, Tio is this year's Adolis Garcia. Feel like I've been saying the same exact thing as well. Which Hernandez do we want to start with though? Teoscar or Kiké?
Let's start with Teoscar.
Start with Teo, baby.
All right. Well,
Bobblehead time.
Tio has lived up to the hype. All we've been saying all season long is get this guy into October, and he is going to go off. And that is exactly what he's done for the Dodgers. He's got a couple home runs, including a grand slam, 7 RBIs, snuck in a stolen base, OPS over 1,000, hitting over 333. It took Yu Darvish deep tonight, which was a huge insurance run. The guy has been everything and more. This guy, blank check, pay him what he wants. I don't care about getting some rookie or scrub out there in left field next season. You got to bring back Teoscar Hernandez. He is a cornerstone player, and he has been everything and more.
I 100% agree. We've been saying it all season long, and we've also been saying we're waiting to see what happens in October. The Dodgers don't win this series without him. Just simply do not. Huge hit in game 1, almost brought them back in game 2, but brought them back to life, certainly. And then tonight was just, you're clinging to a 1-0 lead. And yes, the other Hernandez, Kiké, what an immaculate job as well. But you're clinging to a 1-run lead. And, it was just a solo shot to put you up 2-0. But how much of a sigh of relief did you all, have in that moment when the ball left the yard? Just a massive home run. And I was really hoping that we could look back on that moment as a signature moment of his in the playoffs, having won that game. Because if you remember, obviously, when Yasiel Puig hit that home run off of Eduardo Rodriguez in the 2018 World Series, you're and it's with Kobe in the background. And it's just like, why couldn't that be like this staple moment en route to a Dodgers victory? I was so worried. I didn't want to make that declaration at the time when we saw Teoscar hit the homer. But man, what a player, and also just a guy we didn't have before. We didn't have a guy with that kind of mentality in a while. I'm not going to say ever, because we've had that type of energy before, but we've been missing that from this team the past few years.
He's got an energy that I think he took from that Blue Jays team, and he carried it over here to Los Angeles. And I'll tell you, Teo's had such an interesting journey, because he, for a couple of years there in Toronto, I mean, he was an all-star, hit as many as 32 bombs while he was out there. Of course, had a career high this year in LA with 33, but he was kind of trending down when he went to Seattle. I mean, who doesn't, right? Like, Seattle is the death of hitters, it seems, in that ballpark. But coming over to LA, just an immediate start. You take a chance on him, and you see what this has produced. I mean, he's been as clutch and as huge of a signing for Friedman as you could argue anybody else outside of Ohtani, right? I mean, the reality is Teo has been a crucial impact to the entirety of the season. And so for him to step up the way he did during this series, and Jake, you kind of mentioned, you talk about a big moment. He had a grand slam against the Pods earlier. They don't win that game. A lot of people probably won't be thinking about that moment as much as they will the solo shot tonight, but he
Absolutely.
stepped up time and time again for this squad. Clutch base hits, RBIs. He delivers with runners in scoring position as well, by the way. I think that's something that's crucial about him. That's been the death of this team over the years. So I'm so thrilled to see a guy that not only is, it seems, taking that mentality from the regular season to the postseason and kind of keeps it going that way, but also a guy that's clearly passionate and wants to be here. And give him the blank check. I don't care how old he is. He's not that old. He's 31. Give him the blank check. Tell him we want him Dodger for the rest of his career. Honestly, at this rate, like, he has stamped his signature in and Dodger lore already. I expect even better moments to come. And he's a righty hitter, guys. You're going to face those 3 lefties you were talking about. I think he's going to be even more important this time around because of that. So needless to say, Teo, Can you not be more thankful for him?
I said it before, and I'll say it again. A lot of media and fans said the Dodgers were having issues replacing Justin Turner. That's literally what Teoscar Hernandez has been. He replaced Justin Turner with the bat and a little bit of the leadership on the side. The Dodgers found their spark, a clutch hitter in October, a righty bat with some pop. Teoscar Hernandez has kind of filled that void. So passing the torch over to the other Hernandez, all off season long, me and Jake beat this to death. We were pounding our fists. As crazy as it might have sounded, we said Kiké Hernandez needs to be re-signed with the Dodgers. Make it happen. We don't want that Manuel Margot on our team. We didn't believe in that guy. We said kick his ass to the curb and re-sign Kiké Hernandez because we know this guy shows up in October. And before the game, Dave Roberts made the same exact proclamation, and Kiké fulfilled the prophecy. And who would have thought Kiké Hernandez, for the longest time in the game, was the difference when he took Yu Darvish deep in his first at bat. I can't remember the exact stats, but in these like scenarios where the Dodgers are facing elimination, Kiké has an OPS over 1,000. And the fact that he was able to get that run on the board pretty early in the game and give Yamamoto a small cushion turned out to be the difference. And like Jake said a few minutes ago, Kiké Hernandez, righty, lefty, he's got to start every game moving forward until he gives them the reason not to start him.
Right. And Dave Roberts said in his post-game press conference that the reason we brought back Kiké Hernandez this year was to win 11 games in October. Perfect. Keep him in the lineup. That's what you got him for. That's what we've been saying all season, because Kiké did not have a good regular season. And there were at times where you felt that he was just a brutal automatic out. But we kept saying that the regular season, they're not going to count on him for anything. They've got enough firepower. They've got enough offensive thump to win baseball games and get into the playoffs. They have him on the roster for this specific reason. And for whatever reason, he has a career OPS of basically 900 in the postseason. He's got 14 home runs. He's 8th among active players in postseason homers. It's unbelievable what he does when October comes around. And so it's just an incredible player to watch. And every time you think that he won't come through, he ends up coming through and meeting the moment. And tonight he ambushed Darvish. I mean, it was on the first pitch. He just crushed it. And that was all that was the difference in the game. It was basically a walk-off home run in the very early part of this game because they didn't score. The Padres didn't score.
Kiké thrives under the pressure. He is all about high energy. That's just the player he is. That's the person he is. He's all about energy, hype, the moment, and he meets it time and time again. And Jake, to your point about that OPS at nearly 900, I mean, you look at the slash line in the playoffs, that alone is crazy. He has a 277 average in the playoffs, and on-base percentage, this is crazy. And on-base percentage in the playoffs against the best pitchers, a 351 career on-base percentage in the playoffs. That is nuts. And a slugging percentage at 548. So he's producing, he's getting on base, and more importantly, has had so many clutch hits for this Dodgers team. I almost want to pretend about the time that he went off to Boston. We let him go to Boston, and then he goes off there too, of course. Yep. But the fact is that he should be in the lineup every day from this point on. There is no excuse. That guy has earned his moment, and we need him. I mean, it's simple to say. We need him in the lineup because he's a difference maker. And whether it's hitting a solo home run or making a great defensive play, I mean, let's not forget, he made some really good defensive plays today on top of that. So I just look at him as the overall solid utility player that shows up and when the matter in the moment is needed the most. And so I'm just a huge fan of what he's been able to do in the past. Obviously, when I think about Kiké Hernandez, I think the first thing that comes to mind is 2020 when he hit that home run to tie things up, and it was Game 7. And then you look at and that was against the Braves in the LCS. But this right here is as big as it gets, right? I mean, he's keeping our season alive and on the biggest stage in the biggest game. So I expect nothing less than for him to continue to produce, and we've hyped on it already. Lefty, lefty, lefty. They're coming with Quintana, with Peterson.
Who he owns in the NLCS in 2017. So
I mean, that's huge.
Yeah, so I just wanted to add on to, I just love Kiké's personality after the game. he was asked by, I think it was Ken Rosenthal, just what's different about this Dodgers team. And then he asks, are we on live television? And he's told yes. And then he says,
That's
the
fair.
fact that we don't give a fuck. And Fox caught it, didn't get bleeped out. Love the energy. And I know earlier when they, before the game, they were interviewing him, which is kind of cool that of all the star players, Kiké got the podium and he just kind of re-hit the, mindset that he's here to win a World Series. And the Dodgers showed a lot of fight, especially in these last two games. It's never easy coming back from a 2-1 deficit. And they showed a lot of heart, a lot of fight, and the pitching was just out of this world. So see what some questions are and then get more of your guys' thoughts of what's ahead and revisiting this awesome NLDS. Noisy Ninja 91. I know it's been said that the Dodgers have been able to get over the hump to get to the World Series and win. Do you guys think that the Padres were the hump this year?
Here's my thoughts on what this series means. I think that this series was going to determine, well, I'm not going to say this definitively, but this series had two of the teams that I thought could potentially win the World Series this year. And the pathway to the World Series itself is not an easy one, but I think in terms of the level of play or the level of talent that the Padres have versus what the Mets have, the Padres are a much better team, I feel, on paper than the Mets are. I think the Mets are playing really well and they're really hot, but I'm hoping that the momentum of Game 5, since this series had to go 5 games and we're playing a day after tomorrow, and with the Mets having to kind of wait around for us, I'm hoping that momentum goes into Game 1 and we're able to snatch it up, because right now we're on a collision course to potentially face the Yankees in the World Series if they advance past the ALCS.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point. The Mets have been on rest now for 3, maybe 4 days when they get to face us on Sunday. And now the Dodgers are the team that they didn't get the bye. They had to play tonight. They get 1 day off and they reset for the Mets. So hopefully that actually plays into our favor because we've got the momentum going fresh off the series win. The Mets have kind of been laying low for a few days. And I imagine the ball gets turned to Jack Flaherty for Game 1, and that sets us up beautifully. I didn't talk about this, but one thing off air that I was kind of just really going nuts about was they better not throw Jack Flaherty in this game, because I did not want to burn 2 starters and then go into the NLCS with, I guess, Walker Buehler, and then who knows who you throw for Game 2. Instead, you get Flaherty fresh and you reset the rotation, and we didn't pull a Max Scherzer where you burn a guy out.
Right. Yeah. And they did. Sorry, Dusty. They didn't need to either, because finally they trusted the bullpen that got him there. I mean, this bullpen is I think the best in baseball. So to go to a starter out of the bullpen when you don't need to was going to be a bad decision. So I'm glad that they stuck with their guys.
Yeah, I think they learned from 2021, right? I mean, you look at the battle, and there are some parallels that you can have from this year's division series to that of 2021. Obviously, you had the Giants and the Dodgers going head to head. There was the rivalry, the 2 best records in baseball, and just emotional all the way through, right? That's kind of how this series was as well, is blow for blow. And it was basically the Dodgers with the last sucker punch to finish things off. What I will say, and to your point, having a fresh Flaherty in Game 1 is crucial, because the Dodgers were really decimated in the rotation. I mean, they were beat up by the Giants back in 2021, and then they went up against what was a really hot Braves team that had pitching, and that was difficult. I think the Mets, as far as, and we could talk more about the matchup when you guys want to, but I will say, like, they have some sneaky arms, right? They've got some sneaky veteran arms. I think Sean Manaea is going to not be talked about a whole heck of a lot, but he has put in quite a bit of at least impressive quality starts over the course of this year. And so he's one that I'm maybe a little concerned about. And then they're using Peterson as a swing man. I think he's going to actually become a starter for them, because that's kind of what he was doing in the regular season. And he was putting together a lot of 6-7 inning, 1-run, 2-run games. And so if you look at what Peterson did in the second half of the season, I mean, he was very impressive. So the Dodgers have their work cut out for them. Don't be satisfied. I mean, obviously enjoy the win tonight. And I think the players, and hopefully Dave is, making this very known to these players, that enjoy the win tonight for sure, because It is well deserved. It needs to be celebrated. This was a hard series to win. With that being said, it's not going to get easier, right? You have to win another 8 games, and only one team comes out on top. So you got to make the grind. You got to finish the grind. And this is a great next step in that direction. But don't settle, because ultimately the Mets, they're sneaky, and they're also hot at this time. And, there's a lot of that talk about how the Mets fans want to pretend like Lindor should be in the MVP race when he absolutely is not. It's Ohtani's one, and it's a mile and a half ahead. But there's going to be Lindor probably playing with a purpose for that, I would imagine.
All right, I got to do a quick ad read. Then I see a bunch of super chats that I need to get to. So super chats popping off tonight. Thank you guys. Really appreciate it. I don't know if anyone's been playing Underdog Fantasy, but when you get those little pick'em entries before the game, it adds even more intensity. And we've got Football Sunday coming up. Let's go some Caleb Williams. I'm feeling pretty good about him in London. Underdog Fantasy has been an awesome app to use and super easy and very fun every weekend. So Underdog is super easy to play, and it's even easier to get started. Go to their easy-to-use mobile app or underdogfantasy.com. Sign up with the promo code INCLINE, and Underdog will give you a mystery special pick to use on your first pick'em entry, plus a first-time deposit offer of up to $1,000 in bonus cash. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code INCLINE to claim your new customer special of a mystery player pick and your deposit offer. Terms apply, though. Must be 18 or older, and in Alaska, 19 or older. In Nebraska, Nebraska, say rhymed. 19 older in Colorado, 21 and over in Massachusetts, Arizona, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Void in Colorado. Concerned with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpagambling.org. In Arizona, 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT STEP to 53342. New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. So here we go. Super chat time. Thank you guys. Jeremy Bird, bring back Teo and not Frank McCourt. Hell yeah. Absolutely. Screw Frank McCourt. Make Teoscar Hernandez a Dodger for life. Next super chat also comes from Jeremy Bird. Jeremy is just awesome tonight. Go Dodgers. Hell yeah. Go Dodgers. Jeremy Bird again. Sunday. He cannot wait. I cannot wait either. NLCS coming to Dodger Stadium against those New York Mets. What's up, Dennis Gonzalez? The Padres played this series for the vibes, and the Dodgers playing their lives. I like this. And Harry Thompson, do you think we're the favorites for the World Series with our available roster? Anyone got thoughts on that one? Are we the favorites for the World Series?
I think we, up and down our roster, we have the best roster left. I think that the only other roster that rivals ours right now is the Yankees. But I don't think I don't think that the Guardians are better than us. I don't think that the Tigers are better than us. I don't think that the Mets are better than us. We just have to play to the level that we know how to play, and we're going to beat the Mets. That's just that simple. It's not going to be easy, though, because the Mets have that momentum coming from the final days of the season, scratching and clawing and being down on their last breath against the Milwaukee Brewers, and Pete Alonso, is able to basically will them back. I mean, they never quit. So and they've got a guy named, Francisco Lindor over there who is out of this world right now. So they're going to be a tough opponent, but I think the Dodgers do have the best roster left in the playoffs.
Yeah, the books sure like the Dodgers right now. They're the favorites according to FanDuel, but I think from an actual, when you look at the roster specifically, the construction of it, the depth I think is showing, and the bullpen specifically is I think what puts the Dodgers over the edge. That's not something I necessarily thought I would say maybe 2 or 3 months ago, but the Dodgers bullpen was locked down, and this is the time of the year when you need your bullpen to step up for you. And especially with the starting rotation injuries, I mean, there's nothing you can do to reverse that. They are what they are. Glasnow is not going to pitch for you. Kershaw's not going to pitch for you. It is what it is. But the bullpen stepping up and time again delivering is, I think, the difference maker actually at this moment. And then, oh, by the way, you have Shohei Ohtani. who didn't even have the best series of his career. Doesn't matter. Still had a hit in 3 of the 5 games. He's going to produce, I think, even more against New York. It's just, at the end of the day, you have a team that is loaded from top to bottom. And even with the injuries, I still think depth is a strength for the Dodgers, specifically from the bullpen. And that is huge during this time of year.
IV dropping a chat right now, and I want to get to this because it's a really good point. But before I do that, we got a lot of likes here. Get us up to 50 likes, and I'll announce a giveaway. If you guys get us up to 50 likes, I will announce a giveaway that you guys want. Trust me. So get those likes in. We announced the Evan Phillips bobblehead winner, but he didn't come back to my comment yet when I told him he won. So we got to figure that out. I forgot who won, but I'll look back in the DMs and hit that guy up. So I agree with Ivy. The biggest pitch of the game was the 3-1 pitch to Tatis, which resulted in a double play. I think I talked to Jake about that off air, but maybe not on the show itself. That was a huge momentum swing right there. You had Fernando Tatis up with the runner on first base in Arise, and the fact that Yamamoto was able to get an ending inning double play sent the Padres' asses back to the dugout. That was huge right there. So I agree. That was definitely the pitch of the game. We very rarely do the Dodgers these days, I feel like, get a big double play in the postseason. Like the last one was probably in 2020 with the Justin Turner tag. But finally, we got one to go our way tonight. That was a huge momentum swing.
Yeah, for him to strand runners in that situation with Tatis coming up, that was the whole game right there, because you thought at that moment the Padres had mounted a rally, and they never mounted another rally after that. So that's what, you look back and you say, well, that was early on in the game, right? It was only in the 3rd inning, and why does that matter? Because in a playoff game, everything matters. In game 2, the Dodgers had a horrific defensive inning in the early innings, and that was the difference in the game. The fact that they gave up 6 runs in that inning and Walker Buehler's defense failed him was the difference in the game. So every inning, it matters even more in the playoffs. And so for him to be able to strand those runners in that situation and get Tatis to roll over and ground it to a double play, unbelievable work.
And there were 2 on for that moment. And you're looking at a 1-0 Dodgers lead that very easily, I'm sure Dodgers fans in the back of their head, they're like, please don't make this a 3-1 Padres lead, right? Because it easily, with the way Tatis was hitting this series, I mean, it's no knock on Yoshi or anybody. It's just Tatis was on fire really throughout the series. You serve up a fastball just slightly over the middle of the plate, that ball could be, finding its way into the pavilion. So the work that Yoshi did today, I mean, this was the Yoshinobu game, right? Like that's what this was. And he stood up and he dominated for the most part. In the 1 inning where he really did struggle, he still found a way, right? And that is something that's so reassuring, especially when you do spend the money, right? Like, let's be honest. You spend money for these guys. You want to see them produce accordingly. And I'm sure the reaction, if he didn't pitch well today, would not be all that kind about that contract, even though talk is he'll develop down the road. I mean, there still is expectation that contract would play starting this year. And so for him to produce the way he did, for him to respond, I mean, that was huge. And what a huge out that was against the hottest player on the Padres team. And also not letting another guy get up to the plate and Manny Machado or Profar, right? Profar coming up. Profar's had a hot stick throughout the regular season, and the Dodgers were able to really silence him outside of him crying at baseballs being thrown at him. So that might be the only time he was actually loud this series. So really great job by Yoshi. That was impressive stuff.
All right, 2 more likes and we're in that giveaway territory. We're almost there. How about Fernando Tatis Jr., the unfortunate MLB post where he was wagging his tongue and taunting the fans to looking like a miserable loser in these last couple of games. The before and after of Fernando Tatis Jr. is just so sweet. I did not want to lose the series to that clown. And fortunately for us, he gets to go home. Thank God. I cannot stand people like him, cheaters and whatnot. The other thing I wanted to comment on, Ryan Cohen, I think his name is. He works for John Boy. That guy was so obnoxious as well with his videos of himself yelling that they're going to win the World Series and all the tweets that this is the Padres year. Well, just like Shamu, who left San Diego, so did Ryan Cohen, who was a fraud and out in New York. So if you're not even representing your city, then what are you doing? Sorry, Ryan Cohen. Bye-bye. It's not your year.
Yeah, honestly, when the Dodgers are down 2-1, I was thinking, please, God, do not let the Padres beat you again. I don't know if I could have handled that. I really couldn't. And especially after they won game 4, I was like, okay, now don't let them beat you on your home field. Like, please, like, just get this job done so that we can see the team advance to the second round for once. It's felt like forever since we got to the NLCS 2021, what feels like a long time ago, because I was still doing broadcast news. Like, it's been a minute. So the fact that they were able to get the job done and beat the hated Padres, there's no better feeling than that. And by the way, I want to get your guys' thoughts on this. Everyone kind of prematurely said that there's a Dodgers-Padres rivalry, I thought in the beginning, but now we have a bigger sample size. We have had 3 pretty hotly contested playoff series between these teams. The Padres have definitely gotten better and are rivaling the Dodgers for the division. They almost took the division from the Dodgers this year. Where do you guys stand on the whole rivalry bit? I think there is one, and it is brewing. It is not a historic rivalry, obviously, but it is brewing, and it will, I think, will only continue.
Yeah, I mean, it is the new rivalry. The Giants have pretty much been irrelevant lately, and 3 playoff matches in the last 5 years. That's a pretty big deal. So, yeah, that's a good sample size, and it's definitely rivalry territory now. I mean, you look around the league, I don't think we have this often frequent matchups in the postseason. Dodgers, Padres 3 times. That's a lot.
I think from a national standpoint, I mean, everybody across the country, they wanted to watch this series, right? And that says something as well, that there was attention outside of LA and outside of San Diego, which is not necessarily something that happens often during certain series, right? Like the Tigers and Guardians is a perfect example. Whoever wins it, but nobody's going to freak out about that, right? That's not a rivalry on paper for people outside of the Midwest. But people cared about this series across the country. There was something about this series that was marketable. You had obvious hatred and frustration. The teams were digging at each other. The Padres, as Muncie had said, were trying to get under their skin. You had Machado with the interaction with Dave Roberts. There's just a lot of things going on. I do think it's a rivalry in a sense of there's tension, right? And rivalry means that both sides don't like each other, and both sides do not like each other. It's very clear. And the Padres, to their credit, they have been competitive over the last few years. We don't need to talk about last year, but they really have since 2020 been competitive. So tip the cap to them. They have put together a competitive ball club that's found their way to the playoffs, that's found their way before to the NLCS, and that has beat the Dodgers in the playoffs in 2022. But I don't see this as a knock, right? Like, it's not us caving into saying it's a rivalry. I just think there is excitement around this series, and I guarantee you this will probably be a Sunday Night Baseball coming up next year at least once. And that's because a lot of people want to see this matchup between Manny Machado and Tatis versus everybody from Shohei to Mookie to Freddie on the Dodgers. Like, it's as simple as that. So it's not something to look down upon, because I think some Dodgers fans do want to make it like, it's not a rivalry. I think the Padres are obsessed with the Dodgers. Yes, I think the Padres fans are way too obsessed with LA. There's a reason why we don't have a Jumbotron saying beat San Diego. That there's a reason behind that. But yeah, it's
all right. We hit the 50 likes. So as promised, here's the giveaway announcement. He shoved tonight. Yoshinobu Yamamoto bobblehead giveaway. The first entry opportunity will be when we end the live stream. You have to drop in the comments section after we're done being live. Just mention Yamamoto's name and you get 3 raffle entries. And again, we have to find the Evan Phillips winner. So I'll post that on X as well. Stay tuned. We will post more details how to win this Yamamoto giveaway. There will be a few opportunities to get some entries in there. So Gerard B. Carrillo, if Vesia is injured, who do you think the Dodgers can replace him with? Gratterall, Gonsolin? So I had some thoughts on the Dodgers bullpen probably having some switches anyways. I don't even know if Vesia is actually hurt or he just came out with some cramping, maybe because the moment was so high they didn't want to risk it and they went to Kopech. So hopefully Vesia is okay. But I do think based off what I've been seeing, Brent Honeywell has been hanging out in the Dodgers bullpen. I think they're going to bring him in and probably take off Kasperius, and you'll see Brent Honeywell added to the Dodgers bullpen, and that might be the only switch we see. I don't think Gonsolin's coming back because of the Tommy John rehabilitation. I think Honeywell, the natural fit, comes in as the garbage time long inning guy, and I think that's maybe the only change we see, unless they take off Henriquez for someone.
What about Kelly?
That's a good question as well. No one knows the severity of it. They compared the injury to the likeness of Brusdar Gratterall's shoulder injury.
So both of them could be done.
Exactly.
Yeah, Honeywell was kind of who I was thinking because of the obvious that we don't know the answers yet to the injuries. It does look, and it appears, according to multiple reports, Jack Harris saying that it was cramping on the right side. That is what Vesia had ultimately complained about, and that's why they called out the trainer. They said that he didn't want to risk it trying to pitch through such a close, important game. So, you can kind of hold out hope that that is just them trying to be cautious. And obviously, he's been a crucial piece to this bullpen, had a huge strikeout today as well. So I think that you have to look at it as let's hope that Vesia is okay. But I do agree. I think you're going to see Honeywell make his way to the roster. He pitched meaningful innings for the Dodgers in the past. So I think that that's not an arm I'd be upset to see in the playoffs. I wouldn't necessarily want to see him in maybe the highest of leverage. It would be kind of more on, hopefully they're not trailing, but in the off chance they are down 1-2 runs, maybe that's the guy you throw out there in the fourth, fifth, sixth inning, something like that.
Anna Pineda, don't we hit Manaea well?
We do. We do. I have some stats. I pulled up some stats on how we hit some of the Mets starting pitchers. Sean Manaea overall, he is 1-5 against us with a 7.09 ERA. So we do hit him well. He did pitch against us this year in April, and he went 5 innings and gave up 2 runs and struck out 3. So that was a pretty good outing. Not terrific, but the Dodgers do hit him well, even though he is a really, is having a really good postseason. Quintana, though. Quintana is 3-2 with a 2.04 ERA against the Dodgers, and he's faced us 13 times. So he kind of owns us. Maybe that's a game that we might not get or a game that we might struggle to score runs, but that's a guy that I would be like, he usually carves us up. Kind of in the Eric Lauer territory where he's not that great against the rest of the league, but against the Dodgers, he's really good. Although Quintana is pitching well this postseason. And then I looked up Luis Severino. Only 2 starts, but he's got a 10.50 ERA against us.
Right.
And yeah, it's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Will Smith's 9 for 18 against Manaea.
Yeah. Smith's been killing it against Manaea. And on top of that, Mookie has 3 bombs against Manaea and 32 at bats. So you got guys that have seen him at least decently well. Max Muncy also has hit a home run against him. That was in limited at bats, of course, but there's been some guys that I think 8 total home runs on this roster against him in their careers. So there's at least been some success. Manaea is scary though. His arm angle, it is very deceiving. I think that's going to be something. If Dodgers fans haven't watched him pitch before, it's the arm angle that makes him incredibly deceptive. And that's why he was so successful against the Phillies. In fact, as the Phillies were preparing to face Manaea, they actually had their pitching machine go around the L screen. That's how significant of an outside arm angle he has, right? He goes even below the 3/4. So
yeah, didn't seem to help the Phillies though.
Didn't help him at all. So he can shut you down. And that Phillies lineup, which is lethal, got shut down by him. So I think that is something to be aware of. And yeah, Jose Quintana, whenever I think about him, I think it was the 2017 NLCS Dodgers versus Cubs that he shoved against them until I think it was like a Yasiel Puig double that helped the Dodgers win in game 1. So that's a memory that I have as far as the postseason and facing him. I think that might be the only time the Dodgers have faced him in the postseason.
Yeah, I was just looking up his reverse splits. He's actually contained right-handed hitters as well. I'm surprised a 585 OPS. Lefties have actually hit him better. So Manaea has been filthy this year. So Dusty's spot on. From Gavin, do you think Landon Knack gets a start? I don't know. I think it depends. I would not be shocked if they roll out a bullpen game and maybe Knack is a middle
bulk.
inning. Yeah, bulk guy.
That's what I would do. That's I think that's the easiest solution because you can match up in the first inning against. I guess here's the struggle. Lindor is a switch hitter, right? And so I guess theoretically you're not going to be able to match up with him one way or another. Although I think you'd rather turn him around to hit righty. But
yeah, it's typically they have Lindor, Vientos, Nimmo, and then Alonso, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Let's see. I actually have their box score. It's Lindor, Vientos, Nimmo, Alonso, and then somehow Jose Iglesias is their guy in the fifth spot, which JD Martinez has been off and on in that lineup, which is interesting.
They've platooned him with Winker.
Yeah.
Grimace is coming to LA. We got to shut Grimace down. JF, to that idiot who was waving the yellow towels behind home plate, I hope you wipe your ass with that towel now. I'm glad JF pointed him out. Those two fans that were behind home plate didn't get to wave those towels often, and I'm glad. They were obnoxious. So sit down, Padres fans. Go back to San Diego. Enjoy your beers at the gas lamp quarter. Your season's over. Peace out. Go sing all the small things. You guys are cooked. So we're almost an hour in here, so we're probably going to wrap it up in about 10 minutes or so. So get your guys' final questions in. I want to make sure Dusty and Jake get to cover anything else they wanted to talk about tonight. I'm just rolling through the chat real quick to see if there's anything else. Jeremy Bird, super chat. We beat the Mets in 1988, and look what happened. This is a 1988 rematch. I don't think the Dodgers and Mets have played in the NLCS since 1988. The last few have been the DS.
Yeah, they did meet in 2015. So
they beat in 2015. They met in 06. I think those are the only two I can remember off the top.
Yes,
of my
06.
06 scarred me as a child. That was the infamous
double play
home. Yeah, that was the worst. I remember that probably is the most distinct first playoff series as a Dodgers fan that I saw. It was awful.
Three former Dodgers made the relay to home.
It was Sean Green.
Yep.
And it ended up in Paul LaDuca's hands to tag out Jeff Kent and JD Drew, right?
Yes. And the obscure Dodger that made the cutoff play was Jose Valentin.
That's right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And that is right there for me with Matt Stairs hits one deep into the night. Those two were two of my
Matt Stairs was worse for me. And Matt Adams and Matt Carpenter.
I don't want to think
Mats.
Yeah, it's brutal. But yeah, that double play at home was maybe the most painful first thing. That was my introduction to Dodgers baseball in October. That was painful. So I don't ever want to do that. Oh.
Rengoku 81, 22 out of 27 ESPN analysts had the Padres beating us. We were the underdogs in this series, and on Fox, I know Jeter, Poppy, and
A-Rod.
Thank you, also picked the Padres, but Dontrell Willis was a real one. He picked the Dodgers, and then a couple of them
kind of had to.
A couple of them flipped, but yes, almost the entire world was against the Dodgers. And I know Ken Rosenthal was one of the few that also picked the Dodgers. Even though we had the best team and best team record-wise, kind of amazing that we were the underdogs in the series. And maybe that's what the Dodgers need, is for the world to be against them, kind of like in 2020, and they surprise everyone and shut up all the haters.
They've been such a bad playoff team the past 2 years that I don't blame these guys for choosing the Padres. I would have believed it. I mean, based on what we've seen recently in the postseason, the Padres have gone further in the postseason than the Dodgers have most recently, and the Dodgers have played horrifically in the playoffs. So it was going to take a kind of Herculean effort from this organization, and it's exactly what happened.
I think that you look at them and where they stand now, though, and does that script flip to where they went from being the underdogs to, as we talked about, could they be the favorites in the World Series? And how is that viewed from a national perspective? Against the Mets, you'd have to imagine that the Dodgers are pretty significantly favored in this series. So,
well, yeah, I mean, they're going to get home field advantage in the NLCS, and if they advance, they get it in the World Series.
And so you have to look at it as regardless, all of a sudden that narrative is going to flip. And so the Dodgers need to make sure that outside noise, it doesn't matter which way they're hearing it, whether they're playing that underdog situation or whether they're the favorite, right? Like there's a target very clearly on their backs and they know it. And at this point, it's take care of business, right? That's all they can do is just take care of business. And they got to get through the Mets to get to the big show.
All right, so let's get to our final thoughts and final closing segments. First topic I want to just bring up quickly is I had some serious PTSD and nerves going into this game because Yu Darvish was taking the mound for the Padres, and I really, really wanted revenge against this guy. I know that people are sympathetic towards him because the Astros cheated and ruined his confidence. But at the end of the day, for me, I still feel like Yu Darvish lost us that World Series because he pitched so poorly regardless. And then after that, he was owning us throughout his post-Dodgers career. And we hadn't really beat him before in the playoffs, and he had our number. So what really fired me up was his pregame comments yesterday or today when he said he doesn't even remember whatever his postseason demons were, acting like 2017 didn't happen. So sit down, Yu Darvish. You're done for. Goodbye. No ring on your finger this season. Kiké and Teoscar took you deep, and that was good enough. Peace out, you.
I mean, the truth is that Yu Darvish owns us. I mean, aside from 2 pitches tonight, he was dominant. And if the problem for him tonight is that the Padres offense just decided to turn off. Like they didn't score in the last 24 innings. So you're not going to win very many games doing that. So Darvish pitched really well. He showed up for the Padres tonight. He made 2 mistakes and the Dodgers didn't mount any kind of rally in any one inning. Muncy got a walk and then Will Smith immediately double play. And then that's when Kiké hit the homer. So it was kind of strange, to win a ball game that way.
I think you look at what he was able to do with the Dodgers, though. I mean, outside of that World Series ride, he was effective, right? It's just it was Game 7, right? And things didn't go our way. And I look back on those days, and I'm bitter. I'm very bitter about it. But I do respect you as a pitcher. I think that he hits his spots, right? And you mentioned, I mean, outside of 2 mistakes today, he was really incredible. And if you had asked Mike Schilt, hey, would you be okay with Yu Darvish going 6 2/3 innings pitch for you, allowing only 2 runs in the game? At that point in time, I'm sure he would have said, yeah, absolutely. Our offense should take care of business, should put up at least 2 runs.
Against Yamamoto, who they technically own.
Yeah. And so he would have definitely taken that, right? So I would say Darvish did his job. It's just the Padres offense didn't, and more so, the Dodgers pitching did, right? That's where it came down to. And the thing that we thought was going to be what may have torn this team and their season apart is what actually brought us the victory in the most important game. And I have to say, I do find it funny that this is the 2nd consecutive time that Schilt has lost to the Dodgers in an elimination game and by 2 runs as well. I just feel like that's fun for me.
Anything else you guys want to cover real quick? Any closing thoughts?
No, I'm sorry that I counted the Dodgers out after Game 3. I really feel badly about that. They weren't playing good baseball, and over the last 2 games, they played flawless baseball. I couldn't be more proud of the job that they've done. I'm happy to be continuing to watch Dodgers baseball in the playoffs. It's not a feeling that we've had recently, so to make it past the 2nd round is huge. Now it's time to go and win a World Series. I think we have the team to do it. I think there's a clear pathway now. We just got to go and do it.
Start Kiké Hernandez every game from this point on. Right. He is awesome. Teo is awesome. Dave Roberts, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I was wrong. I said things that I shouldn't have said. I pressed the panic button also too early. I was digging the grave when the Dodgers were ready to come out of nowhere and find their way back into the NLCS. And this is something that I think what is cool about this, we had a tough competitive regular season the Dodgers fans could appreciate. We had a series in the playoffs the Dodgers fans could appreciate. So let's appreciate this next one, right? The highs and the lows. Let's just appreciate it and trust, because clearly that's been the issue. It's a trust problem. It's a relationship issue that I had. But let's have fun and enjoy this series, because there are about to be a lot of moments, I believe, that are going to be awesome that come up. And there may be one or two things that may be moments for the Mets, right? I mean, that's how baseball goes. It's up and down. That's what makes October so special. So let's appreciate it. And Dodgers fans, if they can be as loud as they were today for the next two games, I know it sucks that there's a afternoon game for game 2, but if we can find a way to get Dodgers fans loud, proud the way they were tonight, that's a huge home field advantage.
All right. Well, thank you guys for watching the Incline Dodgers podcast. If you're listening on the audio feed, hit that subscribe button, leave us a review, and let us know your feelings about the Dodgers advancing to the NLCS. And if you're watching on the YouTube channel, I told you, get that Yamamoto entry in there. Drop in the comments after the live feed. Just mention Yamamoto and you get 3 entries. The Mets have a lot of personalities. Do you think we can pull off someone like Barstool Frank the Tank, or that what's that guy's name? Mark? I don't know. I forget his name. But that Mets Mark guy who's annoying.
Martino or something.
I forget.
I'll try not to keep up with it.
Maybe we can get some Mets people on and make this fun.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear.
Frank the Tank would be fun.
Yeah.
Would be cool. Yeah.
We'll reach out quickly in 10 seconds or less. Who's your NLDS MVP from this past series?
The NLDS MVP is Teoscar Hernandez.
Okay.
Yeah, it has to be Teo. The other option I think would be Kiké, but Teo came in time out. That's who it is.
For me, I think it might be Blake Trinan. All right.
Or just the bullpen.
Well, just the bullpen. Yeah. All right, everyone. Thank you guys for watching. We're out. We'll be back.